Good morning, and welcome to Neighborhood Unitarian Universal Church in Pasadena. Welcome to all members, friends, and guests. My name is Carl Puchlik, and I'm happy to serve as your worship associate for the third time. Neighborhood Church creates and grows an inclusive community of faith connected by love, spirit, and service. We acknowledge our presence on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tonga peoples, traditional caretakers of the lands and waters of this campus. Today's service is led by the Reverend Dr. Omega S. Burkhart. Our music today is led by Wells Lang and Adrian Benuelos. All children's activities have been moved to the sanctuary building for the summer programming. There are activities and additional information for you in the family information sheet in the entryway. Families with young children are always welcome in the sanctuary, and there is an additional play area for the very youngest in our narthex. For adults and older youth who do not need assistance, there is a quiet table for doodling and drawing close to the organ. I'd like to draw your attention to the following announcements. Registration for two important NUUC traditions is happening now: Camp de Benneville Pines Family Camp and Esperanza Service Trip to Mexico. See the weekly newsletter for more information. Families, please fill out the survey in the newsletter to indicate your preference for the programming for the upcoming year. Also, please consider signing up to be a teacher for our children and youth programming next year. Even if you can't commit weekly teaching, we'd love to have you as a volunteer once a month. Training and support will be offered. This is a great way to support our families and youth, as well as deepening how you live into the values of interdependence and generosity. Contact El Moss after the service if you are interested. Chalice Circles continue to take registrations for members to join small group ministry gatherings throughout the next year. These groups meet monthly in person and on Zoom for deep spiritual conversation. I joined a Chalice Circle for the first time last year, and it has been one of the most meaningful, rewarding parts of church here. Like many people, I expected to build strong relationships within the congregation, and that certainly happened. But what I didn't expect was how much the experience would extend beyond our monthly meetings. Each month, we reflect on a different theme, and I found those topics finding their way into conversations with friends and family. They became ways to move beyond everyday conversations and connect on a more meaningful level with the people closest to me. If you've been considering joining a Chalice Circle, I hope you'll give it a try. It's a chance to deepen your connection here at church, and you may find, as I did, also a way to enrich your relationships outside of church. See the folks at the table on the patio after the service to get more information. And they did lose one sign-up sheet on July 12th, so if you registered on July 12th, please check out the table to make sure that you're registered. If you'd like to follow along, our order of service this morning is available as a link in the Sunday email and online by scanning the QR code on the back of your hymnal with your phone camera. Again, welcome to Neighborhood Church, an inclusive community connected by love, spirit, and service. Please rise in body and spirit to join us in singing the processional hymn, number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, in the gray hymnal.
Lover of We gather in August. It seems like summer just began, and yet here we are. It's coming to a close. Fall is just now present on our horizon. Some of us are readying ourselves for a new school year, perhaps, and others are readying ourselves for a new church year. Some of us, like me, are yearning for a break in the sun, excited for a possible cloud on the horizon. And I did just this morning notice that the sun is subtly changing its course. Oh, August, writes poet Lindsay Rush. Oh, August, you heiress of chaos, bestow upon me your unfazed disposition. Help me rest between two worlds without being a bad neighbor in both. August, if you have a sec, dust off my dreams and fix my posture, ease my growing pains, and school me in the weird ways of wonder. Please, darling August, teach me to hold hope in the palm of my hand, braid my hair, and turn me toward the sun so I can accept this new era like the warm invitation that it is. This month of August, you all are invited into a celebration of wonder during our services, an intentional cultivation of ways to engage with the world that are curiosity-driven, that perhaps inspire you to questions and maybe even more questions than answers. And perhaps a little inspiration for this upcoming church year to think outside the box of our regular calendar. Today we explore language and ways of being that are difficult to capture in a word, but that we as humans understand as a commonality of our experiences. Next week we'll honor the poetry of Walt Whitman for Poetry Sunday. And the Sunday after that, you'll have the opportunity to ask me questions here, live, during the service for Question Box Sunday. We'll close out the month of August with a deep dive into the art of wandering without a map. For those of us who are called to a life of human connection, there will always be some delight in the precision and beauty of language to help create and foster relationships. Just as there will also be an awareness of the incapacity, the inability of language to convey all that there is about the human experience. And I think in some ways this mirrors our understanding of Unitarian Universalism, our intentional plurality in our theology, in our communities, and in the ways that we seek to understand that which is larger than ourselves. So today we light this chalice in honor of wonder, whose lessons about living creatively, purposefully, and joyfully inspire us every day. At this time, I invite you into a moment of gathered centering. In our theme of the day of playing with and appreciating language, I invite you to focus on these words. It is a simple sentence with 4 words. Each time I read the sentence, I will put the emphasis on a different word. The first time I read it, I invite you to explore identity. The second time I read it, I invite you to explore your reality. The third time, your place. And the fourth time, your grounding in this moment. It will become clear shortly. I will read it 2 times through, and then we'll ring the bell for some shared silence. So I invite you into this space, breathing deeply, rooting yourself into your chair or into the ground with your feet. I am here now. 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 Come back into this space. We are here now. We are here now. We are here now. And say it with me. We are here now. You got it.
Every Sunday, the congregation dedicates 100% of its contributions. You can donate in one of 2 ways, by using your phone or here in person. You may rise during the music to put your donations in the box if you wish. This week, our gifts support Right Girls. Here with more information is Ruby.
Hello, I'm Ruby. Sorry, I'm kind of short. I hope you can see me. Thank you so much for having us. I'm going to start by explaining a little bit about what Right Girl is and what they do. They're a phenomenal organization that has been around since, I believe, 2001. They help teen girls and gender-expansive youth meet up and unite with women who are successful in the different fields of writing and form mentorship relationships, some of which meet at the monthly workshops all over LA and now sometimes online. And then there are weekly mentorship opportunities where mentors and mentees will meet and they hone their writing skills, practice their craft, and Also, form identity and community support. They have a mandatory program for the seniors in the program where 100% of their girls go to college. And they mainly began serving girls in underserved areas in LA. They've expanded since, but because of the location where they focus, the fact that they get 100% of their girls into college is incredible. I am an alum of the program. I was in it about 10 years ago. And the wonderful thing about Right Girl is that even if you just go to one workshop, you're theirs for life. They never forget about you. They keep you on email lists. They know who you are personally. I participated for 2 years. In the last 2 years of my childhood, I was confined to a hospital bed because of some genetic conditions. And they never forgot about me. I couldn't attend workshops anymore because this was long before virtual. And they sent me not only my mentor, who was amazing and drove from the Palisades to Woodland Hills every week for 2 years for me, but also Karen, the leader of the program. Both these women sent me letters. They sent me books to read. They paid attention to me. They made sure I was loved and known and not forgotten. And when I came back as an alum the very first time, they gave me a personal gift bag that was full of things that I personally liked. They had a pencil case in my favorite color. They had my favorite color of nail polish, a journal full of stars all over it, which I loved. They know you. And it's not just for writers. It's for any youth who needs a community, who needs support, who needs help getting through school and friendships and into college. I remember being a teenager when I asked Karen, I want to be a scientist. Is it weird that I'm here? And she said, absolutely not. This is for everyone. And then I ended up being a writer, and it was not her plan, I promise you that. But yeah, no, I am hoping to soon debut as a children's author who can have as much of an impact on a child's life through writing as Right Girl had for me. They literally saved my life and kept me going through the worst of hospital treatments, and my mother often says they're the best thing that ever happened to me. So, and this couldn't happen without the support of communities like yours. So please, please, please consider helping us out. I know it would mean the world to so many girls and mentors everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you for giving generously.
Today's instrumental selections in honor of the Untranslatable are the Nociens by Eric Satie. Nocien is not a word that people agree what it means, and to me, each of these pieces are mysteries and questions upon mysteries.
Thank you for donating so generously to this organization that is clearly life-changing. And I'm so glad that we could have you here, Ruby, today as we're exploring the power of language and the effect that it has on our lives as writers and people for whom connection is so important. So thank you so much for being here. The reading I'd like to offer you this morning comes from a great writer, comes from Audre Lorde, who gave this talk as part of an essay that she gave in 1977 at the Modern Language Association's yearly conference. It was during a panel on lesbian writers. She begins her talk by outlining her then recent health problems, a health scare for which she was facing fairly dire health consequences. She talks about how language and writing shaped her ability to name both the unnameable fear of facing her own mortality, but also the celebrations in her life. That writing allowed her to translate that fear and anxiety into action. Her raw vulnerability, which, as many of you know, if you're familiar with her writing, is a characteristic that defined all of her work and is very much present in this essay. It serves as a model for me as I explore daily what language means for me in the work that I do with you. Her essay ends, it concludes with these following words. In the words of Audre Lorde, each of us is here now because in one way or another we share a commitment to language and to the power of language and to the reclaiming of that language which has been made to work against us. In the transformation of silence into language and action, it is vitally necessary for each one of us to establish or examine her function in that transformation and to recognize her role as vital within that transformation. For those of us who write, it is necessary to scrutinize not only the truth of what we speak, but the truth of that language by which we speak it. For others, it is to share and spread also those words that are meaningful to us. But primarily for us all, it is necessary to teach by living and speaking those truths which we believe and know beyond understanding. Because in this way alone can we survive, by taking part in a process of life that is creative and continuing. That is growth. And it is never without fear of visibility, of the harsh light of scrutiny and perhaps judgment or pain or death. But we have lived through all of these already in silence, except death. And I remind myself all the time now that if I were to have been born mute or I had maintained an oath of silence my whole life, I would long for safety. I would still have suffered, and I would still die. It is very good for establishing perspective. We can learn to work and speak when we are afraid, in the same way we have learned to work and speak when we are tired. For we have been socialized to respect fear more than our own needs for language and definition. And while we wait in silence for that final luxury of fearlessness, the weight of that silence will choke us. The fact that we are here and that I speak these words is an attempt to break that silence and to bridge some of those differences between us. For it is not difference which immobilizes us, but silence. And there are so many silences to be broken. And thus ends our reading.
This is Wanderer's Night Song. I'll read you a quick translation. Over every mountaintop lies peace, and every treetop you scarcely feel a breath of wind. The little birds are hushed in the wood. Wait, soon you too will be at peace.
Thank you, Adrian, for singing in German. Music, the great translator. Thank you. Beautiful. In 1998, in the last century, I flew to Vitória, Vila Velha, on the coast of Brazil. It's a little north of Rio de Janeiro, to be the assistant to the director of a study abroad program for undergraduate learners of Portuguese. Now, at the time, I was completing my master's degree in poetry written in Spanish from Latin America, but I was also a language student of Portuguese. It was not long after that trip that I added poetry written in Portuguese to my doctoral thesis, and it was largely because of this one particular moment in time. It was so powerful that it remains etched into my memory. Our small plane was taxiing the runway at the Vitória airport, and it was heading towards the airport gates. After landing, I could see through the glass or plexiglass windows of the plane. It was a smaller plane, and I think it was probably a local regional airline, and I remember feeling distinctly out of place that whole short flight from Rio, because I'd been in Rio, large international airport, lots of English speakers and travelers, but this flight was completely in Portuguese, and that's Brazilian Portuguese, which is a different variety of Portuguese from the one spoken on the peninsula. It is much like English from Kansas being quite different than that of the English spoken in Scotland, if you understand. As our small plane got closer to the gates, you could hear the joy and the excitement from the people on the plane. The passengers were pointing and they were laughing. They were scooching together to get closer to the windows. And of course, this was pre-9/11, so you could actually go to the individual gates and wait for passengers, and they were waiting outside for this plane to arrive. And I remember a young woman who was sitting next to me was with her companion, and she was trying so hard to get close to that window, looking out the window. One hand was raised onto that plexiglass, and she looked at her partner, and tears overflowed her eyes, and she said to him, "Que saudades." And she began to weep through a wide smile spread across her face. I had not, until that moment, heard that expression before, "Que saudades." And the way she said it, though, I understood exactly what she meant. I learned through my time there that it's not simply used in the same way as we would use the word nostalgia, but it is similar. It's often translated that way. And there's not really an easy explanation to why someone would say this upon arriving back somewhere to the place for which she felt this emotion, but it was clear to me. She was so excited to be back, and she was remembering what it was like to be there, and she was happy to see her beloveds who were waiting for her. Que saudades. This pondering of language in that exchange, as I observed it, it changed the course of my academic career, and likely changed my theological career as well, because I became an avid reader and student of poetry written in Spanish and Portuguese. And probably I was a better reader, and still am, of poetry written in Spanish and Portuguese because it's not easy to me. I have to slow down. I have to pay attention to the plays on language, to the verb tenses. I have to understand something of the context and the history in order to really come close to the meaning. There's something about the precision of language and poetry, and in particular poetry written in another language, that I really find intriguing. It's both expanded vocabulary, which means I probably won't get all of the meaning, and that richness of experience, of slowing down, of discovering nuance and culture and context, and leaving some parts of that experience just to the unknown. It is unknowable to me, and that brings me joy and excitement. The first scene. This morning, I noticed, as I mentioned to you before, that the sunlight has changed just a little bit, as we head into fall. Now, I was already planning on talking about this first word, but because of that, I was paying extra special attention this morning to the interplay of light and shadows through the leaves and the branches of the trees. The way that sunlight highlights that shocking sort of chartreuse color, and also how shadows are pulling out the purples and the browns and the blues in the background. This movement and texture, and also something about the passing of time. This is all expressed in a Japanese word, komorebi. Komorebi. This is the emotion that is elicited by the act and the art of living contemplatively and noticing it, especially in relationship to how light filters through the trees. Now, let me be explicit. I do not speak Japanese. So to those of you who are listening here today or watching us online, my understanding of this word is really second or third hand. but the emotion that it elicits is not. That is very dear to me. I am a religious naturalist. The natural world around us, and we are a part of it, its cycles and patterns, its beauty and its brutality, all of this fills me with awe and wonder. Through the contemplation of these natural phenomena, I find lessons, and sometimes I'm able to answer questions, but mostly leads me to new questions. Komorebi, the experience, emotion, if you will, the experience of appreciating how the shadows play in a forest, how the bright patterns of sunlight dapple through the leaves or the pine needles. This is holy. This is an appreciation that cannot really be put into words, but it inspires silence. It inspires deep appreciation. It inspires art. It inspires painting and poetry. Komorebi, the art of light and shadow through the leaves. I invite you to consider a different scene. There is a large metal box, and it is fastened to the tile wall in about the midpoint of a long hallway with a lot of doors. Now, this large metal box, it sits waist high or so for an average adult, but there is a line of people waiting in front of this little metal box, and those people are smaller. It is a queue of wiggling third graders, and they are slightly sweaty and kind of loud. They're coming in from recess. Some clinch water bottles to fill at that large metal box that's affixed to the wall, bottles that are festooned with stickers or superheroes. They are waiting at the bubbler. Not the water fountain. They're waiting at the bubbler. Now, if you are not from the upper Midwest, you probably don't use the word bubbler, but I moved from the central Midwest after living in all sorts of places to Milwaukee, which is in the upper Midwest, and they use the word bubbler. Now, maybe some of you even have a version of these in your offices or in your school or work. It's, for example, could be filled by a local company here like Sparklets or whatever, their local brand. You gather there for water at the bubbler. Now, here's the thing about language. Bubbler is translatable. It is in English. You know what I'm talking about, right? But it's a little amusing because we don't use it every day. And it has come to be a word to substitute, much like Kleenex, that was a brand name, now stands in for the generic thing itself. It is translatable, but it loses in its translation a whole cultural context. So a bubbler comes from a company. It is a product that was made by the Kohler Company. And yes, that is the one that is famous for sinks and toilets. The headquarters of which is in Kohler, Wisconsin. That is appropriate. On the north side, about an hour or so north of the city of Milwaukee on Lake Michigan. John Michael Kohler was an Austrian immigrant who pioneered metal and ceramics and home products in the late 1800s. And he, like many Germans and Austrians, brought language and culture to the shores of Lake Michigan and to the rich soils of what is now Wisconsin. Also brought beer culture with them. I've preached on that many times. I'll continue to preach on that. On Halloween, we'll talk more about beer in Wisconsin. Now, the village of Kohler, for which his family, or for which was named by his family, it still exists. You can go to Kohler and you can stay at a very swanky spa, or you can play golf, or stay in the very cute town there. The bubbler was a push-button water delivery device. It was a dispenser that bubbled up water so that people, in particular children, could drink out of it without passing germs to one another using a cup. Hence, the term bubbler became the default for water fountains in that whole part of the upper Midwest. There might be some other places in the country where they use bubbler, but it's not very common. Now, here's the fun thing, is that has led to all sorts of things that are very much centered in Milwaukee and Wisconsin, such as the local there NPR station has a show called Bubbler Talk. You can also rent bicycles that are called bubbler bikes. Now, they have changed the spelling of it, so it's B-U-B-L-R, which is a whole other fun language thing where you take the E-R out. Well, anyway, that's a topic for another sermon. So bubbler has now become a cultural icon in that part of the country. And so while it is certainly translatable, it's just not the same as saying water fountain, because it lacks the historical and cultural context of a whole region. It marks the speaker from being from a very particular geography, and people are proud of its use. Now, you may be wondering, do I, Reverend Omega, call it a bubbler in California? And no, because that would be weird. Here, I call it a water fountain because, just like adding the before highway names, I have learned to adapt to my cultural context. Scene 3. I am sitting with a group of my friends around a crowded table in my small dining room. We don't have enough chairs to go around, so someone sits on a footstool and someone else has pushed in a chair from our living room. We just had a fantastic dinner. It was a potluck, and everyone brought something to share. We are all graduate students, and some of us have small children, and we have exorbitant rent in that college town. That means that our meager student stipends don't stretch very far, so no one can host dinner. We all bring items. We made something important to each of us. My Gallego friends brought tortilla española from where they're from, north of Spain. My dear friend Paola brought empanadas de Argentina. Some of the other Argentinos brought chorizo, because if you know anything about Argentines, they love choripan, which is chorizo on the grill in bread. Those who could bring a bottle of wine or maybe bourbon if we're feeling particularly festive. Some brought nothing, and they are welcomed just the same. No doubt there was mac and cheese, because we had a lot of kids present. The kids are currently shooting each other with Nerf guns in our living room, while the adults talk and we gossip. We enjoy a coffee, an after-dinner drink. A few of us step outside for a cigarette. Sobremesa. De sobremesa. Literally, in Spanish, it means the over or the about table. It really means the act, the time that you dedicate after a meal to connecting and conversing. De sobremesa. Now, in some places, it literally means dessert, right? And that's just fine. But the act of intentionally connecting with each other after a meal when no one is in a hurry, it is a celebration of community building, of honoring differences in our cultures and customs, but coming together because we are chosen family. We are choosing to be together. De sobremesa. contemplation, komorebi, history, the bubblers, adaptation, nostalgia, que saudades, connection and separation, de sobremesa, community and chosen family. All of these represent a theological approach to language and, dare I say, to life. They are all concepts that bridge ages and geographies and cultures. They are all common human experiences that somehow transcend language. These terms are at once precise because of their cultural connotation, but they're also absolutely expansive and somehow untranslatable. We have culturally specific ways of describing them that are unique and relate directly to the context, but also these language experiences are somehow universal. Ironically, they are transcendent and ever-expanding and also immanent, meaning they derive from the specificity of their material context. As a Unitarian Universalist, as a religious naturalist, I am comfortable with this play of precision and ambiguity, the coexistence of precision and the vastness of contextual language and human experience. In fact, not only do I find comfort in it, but this wonder that the interplay between language and plurality of human expression, this wonder is central to how I operate in the world. I am constantly reminded how I can only really approximate the understanding of someone else's experiences. In some cases, especially because it is mediated through language. And yet, there are other times in which language is completely incapable of capturing the essence of a moment or experience, or that language isn't needed at all to express that which is shared between all of us. That experience that is so common to us as human beings, the laughter of a child, the feeling of missing home, fear of death, fear of suffering, or that which is larger than us, awe, that which is divine, God or goddess, the power of music, a good meal shared with loved ones. The commonality of these transcendent experiences, the plurality of expressions for them, and the ways that they are also untranslatable. And isn't that fascinating? I think that is what we proclaim as one of our central values as Unitarian Universalists. We come together to support the search for meaning, to explore the ways that faith in that which is larger than ourselves is made manifest. We come to find what is real, to find what is holy, what is whole, what is good, and then thrive in that plurality of ways of getting there. And we know that this is both similar to the experiences of others in this room and likely vastly different also in its individual manifestations. We are precise in our values and abundant in our ways of living them. And we choose every day to advocate for one another in the same realization of this pluralistic faith. So here we are, together. We are here now. We are perched on this sun-warmed morning, facing an autumnal change in our routines. Let us keep in our hearts a sense of wonder about the changing light angles through the leaves on the trees. May we remain contemplative and attentive to others and the world around us. And may we find connection with others through language or experience as we need it. May it be so.
Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn, number 414, as we leave this friendly place.
As we are coming to the end of our service, may you depart from our time together buoyed by the Spirit of life, delighted by the warmth of our gathering, and renewed in soul and mind. As we extinguish our flame of the chalice, may its lingering spark be carried in your heart until we are gathered again.